Hello, welcome. I am Jason Tamborini, the artistic director of Prologue Theatre, here today talking with Aeneas Hemphill, the playwright of A Wake at Sings, the second play in our Forward New Work series workshops. We will be doing a 2-week workshop of this piece, culminating in 2 readings on May 5th and 6th. Welcome, Aeneas. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, super excited about the workshop. Super excited to get a chance to work with you and this team of people we're starting to put together. We're just going to kind of jump into these questions. I know I sent them to you ahead of time. So I guess just the first thing, just tell us a little bit about yourself briefly. What else you're doing today? What else you've already done? What other projects you're working on? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so I'm Aeneas Sagar Hemphill. I'm a writer, performer, composer, lots of many things. Especially at this point. But I'm multiracial, so my mom's side is from India, my dad's side is from America. And I grew up in Vienna, actually, in Northern Virginia, right here. But I've lived away for many years, so now I'm coming back, and this has been a great way to like get back in touch with the DC community. But yeah, so like what am I working on? I'm working on like so many things. I have like another play about internet trolls that I'm trying to like finish a draft for a workshop for. Been working on it for a long time, and we're kind of gonna play around with like some of the like the technology elements of it and see what we can do, like bring that into the theater. And I'm working on some screenplays, an EP if I can ever get my act together to actually like record and write some lyrics. But yeah, so I'm just trying to stay creative and work on as much as I can.
Very cool. Very cool. Lots of little different, lots of side hustles, all making one big thing, like a career or something.
Eh. It's a living.
Um,
Really.
so speaking about your playwriting,
Mhm.
and you've mentioned you have more than one piece, you actually have several. Do you have though a particular writing routine or a specific philosophy that you follow?
Yeah, I know a lot of people do the hour a day thing. It's really not. I mean, over time, I've realized that I do have some sort of like structure for it, but it doesn't feel very structured.
Hmm?
Um, I do a lot in my head before I sit down and write. And, for a long time, I was like, people say that's not writing, doesn't count. But it really like, I have to get to a certain point. There's like a switch that goes off.
Okay.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm sitting down and writing. My favorite is if I can like have a whole day uninterrupted and just like write and not feel rushed about the process. Um, but yeah, that's basically it. It's just sort of like sort of at the mercy of my muse. Um,
All right. So what was, we'll talk specifically now about the play Awake at Sings. What was the inspiration for this play?
yeah, so originally I had this idea for I'd always heard about this play Waiting for Lefty from the 30s by the group theater Clifford Odets.
Hmm.
Um, and that was about a cab driver strike. And it was apparently like it got such a rise out of the audience, it caused like a sort of basically a riot. Um, but I wanted to sort of add my own contribution to that legacy and sort of look at a similar situation, the same situation today, and what are the contours of that? What are the intersections of that? What are the things that we understand better, or what are the way things have changed? All those like sort of okay, it's 2022, 2023, 2022 when I first started writing. Um, so I wanted to write something about how, and driving has been disrupted quite a bit by the rideshare sort of structure. So, with Uber and Lyft being and having no sort of regulations, it threw off basically the systems of um, that cab drivers have been relying on to make it like a decent living.
Hmm.
So when I was like looking at it, I thought it was just going to be mainly about like the experience of the gig economy, experience of rideshare. But then I was sort of like, uh, I right when I started writing and presenting it, I was sort of developing it with the civilians R&D group, which was like amazing. But so we had like other writers who were able to sort of give feedback and stuff. But right before my first presentation, there was news about a hunger strike by New York City cab drivers, and that they won a huge concession from the city um, after I think it was like 10 days, 2 weeks of hunger striking. Um, and it was, I mean, at the time, it was this time of like kind of like hopelessness or like, where it just seems like there's just so much, how are we ever going to do anything? It was like this pure moment of like pure of organizing, of people coming together independently. It's not like a political party and voting and like kind of transferred through all these different levels. It's like people taking charge of their destiny. And it was
Mm,
because of like this debt that they were experiencing. Because I mean, should I go into the whole thing? I mean, it's like basically the basically the mechanism of like how cabs were able to like survive was destroyed by like deregulation, and since it's a speculative market, so all these cab drivers are in debt, and there was a string of suicides, and then so this, so then I was trying to figure out how to write a play about this, and there's a way that you do political plays.
mm,
I guess like there's a way that people know that they're done, and so I was trying to sort of take that distance view of it. But then I just, I was not connecting, so I thought I would kind of use the history as a launching pad and then kind of create a story where, I get to sort of also, I get to reflect reality, refract reality, and to bring in sort of little sparks of reality into it. But it's like, it's a story where I can sort of not impose, but like, I can kind of talk about I can steer the conversation in ways that I think are useful for the story.
yeah. Using the art as as itself as the distancing mechanism.
Yeah, it's like, because we already know we're watching a play. And so it's like almost distancing after that is kind of funny because I'm like, well, we're here to watch playback cab drivers. It's not totally realistic, but it kind of like I was reaching in two directions and then I found some sort of weird middle ground.
Hmm, cool. Um, what, if anything, has changed for you about this play and you're thinking about it since it was conceived?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of started going into it, but it's sort of my approach to the story and the scope of the story. I was stuck for a long time. I was like terrified because I'm like, oh, I have to have a reading of this at some point. But I yeah, it's like I had to. I really did. It was about my relationship to the history and the reality of the story, and the relationship of that with what I wanted to write. Um, and yeah, I transformed sort of my vision of what the play is now. It's like, yeah, it's about sort of the intimacy of these characters of this found family of immigrant cabbies. Um, we're all from different places and different generations. And yeah, it from there, then that's when I was able to sort of like open up I actually start digging.
Hmm, cool. Um, what for you? I mean, you've had a couple of different kind of workshopping experiences. What for you is the most important part of the workshop experience?
I love rewriting. Like it's scary. I hate it, but also like when I'm in the middle of it, it is so rewarding. Especially like, okay, so the best part of the workshop is, I guess, the workshop, but it's being in the room in rehearsals where you have all these brilliant people who bring in all of their experiences, all of their knowledge. They come in the room, and I mean, because my plays tend to deal with all these concepts and sort of what defines a lot of my work is like dealing with sort of these larger structures and then finding their like reflections and reverberations in like intimate human stories. So
Hmm,
the rehearsal rooms end up like becoming very like in-depth conversations about larger issues. Um, and it's just like so rewarding for me to see what is in the play, what people sort of like discover from working on the play, and also what I discover from working on a play. I come to a play, I think I'm writing sort of a blueprint. I'm writing as much as I can as a single human person trying to tap into whatever. But then you get all these people who are trying to make it work and make it stand on its feet. And it's like that, it like it makes it so much clearer what your changes need to be. Because you're like, you can hear if it works or not. And you can know, oh, it's actually this rhythmic issue, or like, oh, actually the person shouldn't go there. They should go there. They should say this line somewhere else. And I love cutting lines because I actually will sometimes be fighting with actors because they're like, no, 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 let's give it another shot. We can make it work. And I'm like, no, 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 get rid of it.
Yeah,
But it's a great dialectic for my own, for creating this piece.
very cool.
Mhm.
Do you have so what happens? So we're going into this workshop in just a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
Do you have a plan? What happens after this workshop for this play for yourself?
No, I've been just step by step. I've been taking it. I usually, it just really depends on like the process. I'll learn a lot, and I think through the process, I'll come to the end, and then I'll know. But I know that I have a hint at one thing I really want to explore. Like I originally devised this play as like an investigative theater piece, and I imagined I would have done interviews with all the relevant characters who are sort of reflected in the play, and the experience of going on the hunger strike and all of that. But I kind of put it on hold mainly because I was still working on my connection to the material and didn't know what I really wanted to know, and also what that would be different. Wouldn't just be like reiterating things the news is already kind of like interviewed them a million times about already. So yeah, so I think now I feel ready to kind of hone in my like investigation, and have more targeted questions and I think I'm particularly curious about about the organization, like what goes into organizing one the street demonstrations that they were doing for days and days and days and days before that. And then also like what is the decision making process of saying we're going to actually take this next step? How what is the minutia of like doing that? Because I think that
Mhm.
is also something that people don't get a vision of usually. They get a vision of this like kind of like very romantic, but there's so much like grunt work and like spreadsheets and you know I don't know. It's so I'm very curious about just the very detailed experience of the people who went through this.
Cool. That's awesome. Um, that's it for the hard questions, I
All
promise.
right.
So just a couple quick rapid fire things. You can choose to briefly explain or not. It's totally fine. It's kind of a this or that, and I'm curious.
Right.
So, this or that, robots or dinosaurs?
Ooh, I say robots because
Okay.
you can have robot dinosaurs. I'm pretty sure that's how future wars will be waged. Um, but
Okay. Trains or planes?
I cannot stress enough how much I prefer trains. I hate flying. I'm terrified of it, and I've been working through it my whole life. It's been like kind of, crippling at times, but most of the time I get through it. But if I could get everywhere on a train, at least everywhere in the US or on this continent in a train, it would just make my life so much better.
Yeah, I feel
And it's
that.
just better. It's a better way of travel. There's more intrigue because there's more space to move around. There's like dining cars. I don't know. It's just a better thing.
I'm there with you. Salsa or guacamole?
Mm, I'd say I'd probably like looking over my like experience of both. It's like I think guacamole has to win for just like,
Okay.
the hit rate. I mean, well, I just think I like the creamy texture. You can get sort of the spiciness of salsa and the flavoring, but there's something kind of more substantial going on.
Okay. Final one, time machine or magic wand?
Ooh, magic wand. I think playing with time in a scientific way is dangerous, but a magic wand you can do all sorts of things to change your reality that don't require like ripping the space-time continuum. I don't know.
Fair. Very fair. Well, Aeneas, thank you so very much for your time. It's been wonderful chatting with you. Again, A Wake At Sings, the workshop is coming up with presentations, readings on May 5th at 7:30 p.m. and May 6th at 1 p.m. here at Prologue's rehearsal space in Arlington, Virginia. Hope to maybe see you there. Thank you again, and we will see you soon.
Thank you all so much.